In this course, we're looking at the iOS Human Interface Guidelines. Now, these are the guidelines that Apple developed to tell developers exactly how they want the apps to look like, to ensure that all apps that are submitted to the store look like Apple apps. So if you submit an app to the store that doesn't follow these guidelines, it's likely to be rejected. So you want to look at these very carefully. These guidelines cover a lot of information, and so you'll probably want to check out the Apple website, developer.apple.com. You can just search for iOS Human Interface Guidelines and you should get to the right page. In this session, I'll be covering platform characteristics. First of all, I'll look at display. There's two terms which you need to be familiar with, one of which you're probably already familiar with, which is pixels. Pixels are the dots of color that are also the measurement of an image. These are used for graphical elements. Points are the measurement of a screen and the location of objects on a device's screen. Points are not equal to pixels. On a Retina display, the high-resolution display, you can have 2 pixels per point. If we're looking at clickable area, however, we're looking at about 44 by 44 points as being the minimum comfortable size of a clickable element. Orientation. Orientation can change. It's kind of obvious. If you turn the device around, it has different dimensions now, different number of points across, different number of points up and down. And users will rotate the device whenever they feel it appropriate. If it feels more natural in a different orientation, they'll do so. Also, if they feel that they have more room to work with, to edit, they will do so as well. Your app should display well in both orientations. And it should also start in the correct orientation. iPhone and iPod have the home screen displayed in portrait orientation. So before they actually open an app, they see all the icons lined up properly in portrait. But if they turn it sideways in landscape, it does not display correctly. It is still in portrait orientation. So if they launch an app, they expect it to appear in the same orientation as it was in portrait. iPads, however, can display their home screen in any orientation. So if they're in portrait, all the icons line up. If they turn it the other way, landscape, they all display correctly. They switch around. So when the app launches, it should launch in the same orientation automatically. Now, the way users interact with the screen is with gestures. And the gestures that they use in your app shouldn't confuse them. They should use the same standard ones to do standard actions, or if you have to define custom ones, the custom ones should not be similar to the other ones. If we look at the typical ones, we've got tap, which is basically a click. We've got drag, which scrolls or pans, drags an element. Flick is a quick scroll. You can tap to stop it. Swipe shows a delete button in a row, hidden view in a split view, and the notification center from the top of the screen. And a 4-fingered swipe switches between apps on an iPad. A double tap zooms. Zooms in and centers or zooms out. You can see this behavior in Safari on web pages with multiple columns. If you double tap on one of the columns, it expands to fill the screen. Double tapping again shows the original view. Pinches zoom in or zoom out. Touch and hold. In a text area, it shows a magnified view, so you can position the cursor. And a shake initiates an undo or redo action. We've also got multitasking. So if you receive a phone call while using an app, your app can choose to do one of several things. It may suspend, or it may continue running it in the background. If you double-click on the button at the bottom, on an iPhone, you'll display the multitasking UI. And this is where you see apps that are suspended or running in the background. An example of this are songs that are played from one app while checking email. So you can still hear the song while you're using email. Certain versions of iOS, version 3.2 and earlier, don't support it. Some of the older devices also don't support it. So you have to be careful to make sure that the device you're currently running on supports what you're trying to do. We've also got preferences, which are available in settings. These are the ones that should only be set once or twice. They shouldn't be common ones that users are always changing. They're harder to get to. If you're going to have a setting that a user changes frequently, it should actually be in the app. On-screen user help. Your app should be minimal. It should be intuitive and easy to use. You shouldn't have a lot of extra stuff popping up. You should make sure all your titles, your buttons are named clearly and concisely so that a user doesn't have to guess what they're trying to do. we have an area that the user is seeing. We've got a couple terms for this area. We can refer to the window, which is what the user doesn't see. It's the area that hosts all the content that they would see. So it can host one or more views, and the views contain the content that the user interacts with. The window itself has no visible components. It doesn't even have a title or close button, can't be moved to a new location, and can't be resized. The screen is what the user considers. It's the visual state or mode of an app. They're unaware of windows or views. There could be multiple views in an iPad screen. There's two types of software. iOS apps, which are the ones that we're developing with Xcode and with Objective-C. You've also got web content. So that would be HTML pages designed more or less for running on a mobile app. You have web apps, which can look exactly like a regular app. They can have an icon, they can hide the interface, so they just look like an app. You also have optimized web pages, which resize to the correct size for a mobile device and look good and run fairly good. You've also got compatible web pages that use technologies that will run on an iPhone or iPad. They can look like the full-size version though, but they still run properly. The browser that you use on an iPhone or iPad is Safari, of course. It provides the interface for browsing the content. Couple differences between the full-size Safari on a Mac. You can't resize, except by changing orientation or zooming in and out. And on an iPad, you're less likely to zoom. Features of Safari. Supports cookies. Does not support Flash, Java applets, or third-party plugins. Does support HTML5 audio and video tags, JavaScript, and CSS transforms, transitions, and animations. So you can still use video through HTML5 and CSS3 that you would have used Flash for before. It interprets most gestures as changing the way the device displays content, not the content itself, except tap. As I said before, you can make a web page run just like an app. You can have a different view, so it hides the Safari elements, and may have an icon. So when they click on the icon, it launches what looks like a regular app. We've covered the platform characteristics of iPhones and iPads. In the next session, we'll be looking at human interaction principles. Thanks for watching.